The Sun Belt continues to be one of the most competitive conferences in college football. And today we're going to take a look at every team's win totals to see which teams will exceed expectations and which teams will fall short. App State is going through a transition and the coaching staff, and their win total is set at 5.5. Now, making a bowl game would be a promising start to that tenure. And I think that Dowell Logans is going to have a lot of work in front of him, but winning football games should get back to where it used to be. This is a program that didn't like where things were going under Sean Clark, and they decided to go in a different direction. And they should be able to get off to a decent start. They have 3 games at the beginning of the year that should allow them to win. Southern Miss will be quite a challenge, but I think that it'll be fun to see how App State performs. They do go to Boise State and host Oregon State after those two. And then conference play features some tough tests on the road, but there are some promising games at home. I think that if you're able to win 3 or 4 of those home games that you have overall, you're feeling pretty good about your ability to hit the over. I do think this team hits the over. There's plenty of Power 4 talent in this roster, and I think that this is going to be a team that bounces back in 2025. Arkansas State's win total is set at 5.5, and in a way, I think that's a little disrespectful. I think this is a sleeper team in the conference. I do think they're going to a bowl game, and I believe that they'll be able to get to maybe 7 or even 8 wins. The start of the schedule is a little bit tough. They'll get off to a strong start with a win against Southeast Missouri. They then have to go to Arkansas and host Iowa State. After that, you get 2 most likely wins against Kennesaw State and ULM. You then face a tougher stretch with Texas State, South Alabama, and Georgia Southern. The remaining schedule, though, should give you opportunities to win football games besides maybe Louisiana. There are plenty of opportunities for this team to win. Butch Jones has done an incredible job of building this program so far. And if Jalen Raynor, their quarterback, can take a step, especially with the talent they have coming back, this is a team that will hit the over easily. Coastal Carolina's win total is also at 5.5. And honestly, it's kind of surprising to see these 3 teams with the same win total. I think if you asked people who they're most excited for, I don't know if you put Coastal Carolina first or second. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but there's some work that has to be done. Now, this team did make a bowl game last year, but it's going to take some time for them to get back to where they were under Jamie Chadwell, and the schedule does not give them opportunities to kind of ease into the season. The Charleston Southern game is easy, but Virginia, ECU, South Alabama, and Old Dominion are going to ensure that this team has to be ready right off the bat. Now, you do bring in some new talent, especially at quarterback. The quarterback position is going to be under a lot of scrutiny and under the spotlight, but I think that if they're able to figure things out and hit some of their big time targets, this will be a fun team. The second half of the schedule doesn't get any easier, so it's going to be tough for this team to get to that 6-win mark. I think I would probably honestly lean towards the under right now because the schedule is that difficult. Georgia Southern's a team that I've been excited for throughout pretty much the entire offseason. And while it might take them a little bit of time to get that excitement going, this should still be a really fun team. They return quite a bit of talent on offense and defense as well. So you have a good core group of guys that are coming back to make a run this year. You start at Fresno State and at USC. That's going to be tough. You should have a chance against Fresno State, but going to USC will give you your first loss for sure. Jacksonville State and Maine give you opportunities to get back on track if you do go into 0-2, or even if you are 1-1. So you should be, I think, 3-1 heading into the big game against James Madison. Now, the Dukes are going through a quarterback process as well, quarterback competition, and that's going to give Georgia Southern a chance to surprise people. If they do that, there are so many winnable games after that. You look at what the remaining schedule gives them: Southern Miss, Georgia State, Arkansas State, App State, Coastal Carolina, Old Dominion, and Marshall. You don't see Texas State. You don't see Louisiana. So after that James Madison game, if this team is able to, 1, win that game, and 2, continue playing with a ton of confidence, there are a ton of winnable games. I'm optimistic for this team. I think the over hits for sure, and it'll be fun to see this team make a run. Georgia State is tough because it's just been a tough program to win at, and Del McGee has a lot of work to do. Probably getting off to an 0-2 start when you face Ole Miss and Memphis, and then a couple weeks later, you're going to play Vanderbilt, so you're most likely starting 1-3. The conference slate doesn't really give you any breaks either when you start, because you get James Madison, App State, Georgia Southern, and South Alabama. Now, the final games do give you some potential winnable games, but getting to 4 wins to me is going to be a challenge. I'm going to go with the under here, and if they beat that, I'll be pleasantly surprised. James Madison is a team that has playoff potential, but it's going to come down to the quarterback position. And as things kind of progress, it doesn't seem like Alonzo Barnett is going to be able to get back fully healthy by the time the season starts. So you're going to have to look at Matthew Slugar, Camden Coleman as the guy running the offense. Now, I don't have nearly as much confidence in either of them as I do Barnett, but they are going to have to find a way to win. You do have a big game against Louisville in week 2, and that is a tough one. And if you don't have the right quarterback in play, you're not going to win that. I really would have liked to see Barnett in that position, because I think he gives them the best chance for success. 2 weeks later, you face Liberty, same situation. And then when you get things started in conference play, Georgia Southern right off the bat, that's going to be a challenge. Now, this is still a very talented team. Even if the quarterback position isn't what I think it's going to be, I think this is still a very talented team. I think this team has the ability to win some of those big time games, and they're definitely still the team to beat. They'll have a target on their back, but this is a team and Bob Chesney that knows what he's doing. They know how to win big games, and it'll be fun to see how those first couple games play out. Even after a 10-win season, I think a lot of people are overlooking Louisiana, and do that honestly at your own risk, because this is a team that is going to be really fun to watch. They bring in Walker Howard from LSU and Ole Miss. That's a guy who I think has a lot of talent that has been not given his opportunities to showcase what he can do. I think that he'll be really fun to watch in this offense. The defense is absolutely stacked, so I'm going to go with the over. The schedule gives them plenty of solid opportunities. There's only a couple of road games that are concerning, but overall, this team should have a lot of confidence, and there's a chance they win 10 games again in 2025. The whole Marshall situation last year was honestly really weird. He kind of drove Charles Huff out of town after what he accomplished for you last year, the amount of talent that he produced. It was just kind of a weird situation, and Marshall might realize that they maybe made a mistake. Now, they probably won't admit that now. They might think that this is still going to be a good team, but the win total is set at 4.5. There's a reason why that is the case. Charles Huff left. He brought a ton of talent with him. I believe it was like 21 transfers went from Marshall to Southern Miss, and that doesn't even include the guys that went elsewhere. There were a number of transfers that departed this program, and honestly, with a new coaching staff, it's going to be tough to win football games. You do have opportunities when you face certain competition early on. You face Missouri State, Eastern Kentucky, and Middle Tennessee, but those aren't guaranteed wins. And then winning in the Sun Belt, again, it's competitive, and Charles Huff knows that. He knows the grind that it took to get to this point and get to where he was. And this is a new coaching staff that's going to have to figure that out. And winning games is going to be tough. There are plenty of tough road games, but you do get most of your tougher games at home. So that's the one thing that's really nice. I'm honestly going to go with the under. This is going to be a really tough year. And if they don't have the right talent in place, it's going to be very difficult to win football games. Old Dominion to me is one of those sleeper teams that we're not talking about it enough. And Vegas, I think, is kind of slowly coming around to this team. The win total is set at 6.5. It's gone up in the last couple of months, and this is a team that I do believe in. I think it's going to be a fun team. Now, getting those wins early in the season might be challenging, but I do think this is a team that can win 7 games. Playing Indiana and Virginia Tech in the first month of the season, as well as Liberty, is going to provide a ton of challenges, and there's a good chance you start the year 1-3. You do have the opportunity to win a bunch of games and surprise people. You start conference play with Coastal Carolina and Marshall before you go to James Madison. You then get App State at home, ULM on the road, Troy at home, Georgia Southern on the road, and Georgia State at home. So this is a team that is going to have a difficult road to get to those 7 wins, but this is a team that definitely can do that. Ricky Ronnie deserves a ton of credit. He has Colton Joseph coming back, and that'll be really fun to watch him in year 2 of that system. They have one of the best linebacker rooms in the entire country, and one that is still not getting enough love. They are going to be really fun, and I think they're going to hit the over for their win total this year. Major Applewhite has plenty of work to do. The transfer portal kind of hit his program hard, but it seems that he has certain things figured out. The win total is set at 7.5 for the Jaguars, and winning right away will be, you'll get off to a 1-0 start, but you're probably losing the next two. Finding your way to navigate through a stretch where you're able to win some potential games is going to be fun. You don't have to face James Madison. You don't have to face Georgia Southern. So those are two games that you kind of don't have to worry about unless you do make it maybe to the conference championship for, that situation. You do have to face Louisiana, though. You have to face Texas State. So if Bishop Davenport truly is the answer at quarterback, if they have the offense sorted out with the new talent, then this will be interesting. I think, honestly, when you look at this schedule, I think it's going to be hard to get to 8 wins. This is a team that lost a ton, and that's going to impact the win total. I'm going to go with the under here, but if Major Applewhite is able to get to the over, then I'll be thoroughly impressed once again. Southern Miss is a team that is going to have a bounce back year, plain and simple. Charles Huff is going to change this culture, and the win total has already reflected that. 5.5 is their win total right off the bat, and this is a team that could get off to a hot start. You play Mississippi State, so that will definitely be a loss, or at least should be a loss. Jackson State is going to be a winnable game for sure. I think a lot of people think Jackson State is still pretty solid even without Deion Sanders, but that's a game that Southern Miss should win with this new regime. App State is going to be kind of a coin flip game. That'll be really fun. Louisiana Tech and Jacksonville State, those are winnable games as well. So you could be 4-1 to start your season. Now you do face Georgia Southern and Louisiana on the road after that. That's going to be tough, but ULM, Arkansas State, Texas State maybe, but South Alabama and Troy, those 4 of those 5 games give you a really good chance to get back to a bowl game, to win 6 or more games. I trust that the talent that he brought in is going to make life a lot better. Braylon Braxton is one of the best quarterbacks in the Sun Belt. He is going to be a tremendous impact player for this team, and I do think that they hit the over here. Texas State is kind of unknown, but if there's one thing I've learned is to kind of trust that GJ Kinney knows what he's doing. I just don't know. This is probably one of the few teams that I'm not super confident in terms of my knowledge of what this team's going to be. So it's more of a team that I'm going to kind of wait and see before I'm going to make any predictions or say anything that I know for sure. So if I'm really going to have to do that without any conviction about this team, it's purely going to be off of the vibes that I'm getting from GJ Kinney, which are good. Winning total is set at 7.5. Now, the quarterback position does have to get sorted out, but you do have opportunities to win football games. Eastern Michigan, UTSA, and Arizona State start the year. Now, UTSA and Arizona State will be challenging, but last year we saw this team challenge Arizona State early in the year and nearly beat them. So that's not necessarily a game that is a guaranteed loss, though I do think Arizona State does win that game. UTSA, kind of the same thing. That's going to be a very tough team to beat, so it'll be fun to watch that game. After that, though, there aren't really a ton of games that I'm worried about. The only 2 that are going to be the toughest in conference play is November 1st against James Madison and November 8th at Louisiana. Those are going to be the 2 toughest games for sure. And if they're able to be competitive in those games, you feel pretty good. Outside of that, though, you feel confident that Kinney and this staff know what they're doing. They brought in the right talent, and I'm just going to go with the over for now. And I think that we'll get more answers as the season progresses. Troy's win total is somehow at 5.5, and everything that I've seen from this program, I'm not convinced that they're going to hit the over. Pure and simple, I'm just going to go with the under. I'm not really sold on this coaching staff yet. I think there's a lot of work to do. They're going to get off to a tough start, and there's a chance that they don't get their second win until mid-October. ULM kind of had a tough year last year, at least a tough end of the year. They started off really strong. A 5-1 start was very impressive, but then they lost their final 6 games. They are looking to get back to a bowl game, and I think that they could surprise some people. I do think that they're going to hit the over on the 4.5 win total. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but Brian Vincent deserves a ton of credit for what he has done so far. It's going to be tough, but it's always been tough for ULM. And if they're able to kind of win some of those close games that they lost last year, you're going to see a team that maybe makes it back to a bowl game. Sunbelt is very tough to predict. This is a very deep conference, a very exciting conference, and there are plenty of teams that are going to be in contention and plenty of teams that could surprise us. It's going to be fun. The race to the top is going to be thrilling, and this is a conference, if you're looking for some more excitement in college football, you need to pay attention to them.